My name is Charlotte. I am a grateful, recovered alcoholic. And I'm so grateful to be here with you all tonight. This is incredible, just seeing this many people, right? It's not a convention. This is just a Friday night for y'all. Y'all are wild. When I say recovered, I mean I woke up without the desire to drink today. There was nothing to fight. And that's incredible for a person like me, because I've tried to be sober and have the desire to drink, and that is pure misery. Sometimes even worse than my drinking days. All right, my friend asked me to speak here because we have met twice at rehabs to speak, and we didn't know each other before then, but when we were sharing our stories side by side, they lined up. Not in the before time. We have our own experiences out drinking. We have different consequences, right? Some of us have DUIs. Some of us have been arrested. Some of us have lost our families, our jobs. Some of us have lost our lives and come back. I don't know what your story is, but, right, there's two things that unite all alcoholics. And the first one is the phenomenon of craving. I didn't know what the word phenomenon meant when I came in. It just means observable, something you can see, right? My friends were like, whoa, dude, why are you drinking another one? Whoa, dude, why are you drinking another one? Just drink two, just chill. But I wasn't that kind of drinker. I don't think I was ever that kind of drinker. For the longest time, I thought I drank the way I did because of my childhood, because of my trauma, because things weren't good in my life. But then it got confusing because things got good in my life and I was still drinking the same amount I was drinking before, actually more, because this is a progressive disease. I get worse with time. There's no getting better. I had been in therapy since I was 12. I still became an alcoholic, right? Trauma doesn't cause my alcoholism, and I'm so grateful to know that today. Because the people who traumatize me, right, I don't get to control if they apologize, but they're not my problem. And that's amazing, because now I have a solution, right? Getting back to that phenomenon of craving, this was so important for me to understand what the problem was. And when I came to AA, I thought I had a drinking problem, but I had no idea what that meant. I thought I needed sober friends, so I was going to go to the meetings. We were going to go get some food after. I was going to tell you about how bad my day was. You were going to tell me how bad your day was, and that's sobriety. Whoa, okay. And I still wasn't sure if I was an alcoholic. I came in when I was 22. People in the meeting were like, yeah, I lost my third wife. And I'm like, well, I've never lost my wife before, so maybe I'm not an alcoholic. I was measuring my alcoholism based off of consequences of drinking, and that is different than the actual problem of alcoholism. Like I said before, we all have different stories out there, and I think it can really confuse newcomers sometimes when it's like, okay, well, I haven't gotten 3 DUIs, or I didn't wake up every morning with the shakes and drink. And if you are one of those people out there, I feel you. I was that person too. And I didn't get this clear message of what it means to be alcoholic for an entire year in AA. I just knew bad stuff happened when I drank. But if I can pass along this clear message to you tonight, if it reaches you, if it's helpful to you, or somebody you know, then it's an amazing night. So anyways, back to that phenomenon of craving. I have a different body than other people. It has nothing to do with my childhood. Physiologically, I'm different. That's why I have friends who are normal drinkers. It's why they told me, you don't need to stop drinking altogether, dude. Just have 2. Just have 2 with us. Anybody in here ever been suggested just have 2? 1? Yeah, you're laughing, so. Sorry, I'm a teacher. I'm looking for hands. I'm like, hands? Okay. When I would make drinks for my friends, they'd say this is way too strong, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Or if I ever was invited to a party, which was rare, I would be in the kitchen sneaking everybody's booze. And I thought that's what you do. That's fun. I'm free booze. I'm a writer, so I was like, I drink more because I'm a writer. I'm taller, I'm an athlete, I've always been strong. I'm like, I need to drink more because I'm bigger. I need to drink more because I've got mama trauma. I need to drink more because it tastes good. I don't know. And it was fine until it wasn't. And things started getting bad. I started getting my own consequences. I signed up for a job doing conservation work with the government. You have to sign a contract that says you won't drink. And I was like, great. Because before I came to AA, I tried to get sober multiple times on my own. And I would stop drinking for 2 weeks or maybe a month. And that would be my evidence that I wasn't an alcoholic and I could go back and I could drink. But I am an alcoholic, which means time doesn't cure my alcoholism. No amount of sober time is going to make me a normal drinker because the problem is with my body. My body is my body. Like, if I was allergic to strawberries and I didn't eat strawberries for a month, guess what's going to happen when I eat strawberries? I'm going to go to the hospital. And I thought, again, I didn't realize it was my body, so I thought, I just need a better job. I just need to get away from my abusive household, and then I won't drink like this. But going back to that strawberry analogy, right? Imagine if somebody had a strawberry allergy and they're like, I just need a new job. And then I just gotta I'm just really lonely. I just need to start dating this person and then I won't be allergic to strawberries anymore. And we're laughing. We're laughing because that's an insane thought, right? But that's the second part of this illness, is my brain. It can't rationalize that thought that I will never be able to drink normally. And it comes in the form of something called the mental obsession or the insanity. And on step 2, when it says, we get restored back to sanity, that's what it's talking about. When I came in, I thought, and a lot of people told me, you're insane, sit down, be quiet, you're insane. And I was like, I don't feel insane. I drove myself to this meeting, I'm not hearing voices in my head. Sure, I've made a couple bad mistakes, but I'm not that's not me. But when it comes to this, because I have this body that I can't control, right? When I drink, I don't know what's going to happen. So logically, the only safe thing to do with a body like that is to never put alcohol in it. If I don't put alcohol in my body, then that phenomenon of craving doesn't kick in, and I don't go nuts, right? I don't black out. I don't yell at people. I don't do other things with people. There's kids in the audience. But my brain can't keep me safe from that. And that's why all those times when I tried to get sober on my own before coming to AA, I'd be sober for a little bit. I'd prove to myself I'm normal. And then I'd drink again. And sometimes I would drink because I thought my drinking would be different. Sometimes I drank and I knew it was going to be bad and I didn't care. And by the end there, I was drinking again and I had no good reason why I started drinking again. And those are the 3 thoughts that precede a relapse, right? When I have a sponsee or a new person, and they're like, I drank. I'm like, why do you think you drank? And bless them, a lot of them, and I get this, they're like, it's because I broke up with my boyfriend. Like, is it? There's lots of people who break up with their boyfriends and don't go on 3-day benders. Is it the boyfriend? Or they knew what was going to happen and they can't help it, but most of the time it's like, I have no idea why I drank again. I'm like, yeah, that's where I was too. My life looked good when I came into AA. I had just graduated from college. I got a job in my field in a leadership position. I was living on the road in a tent with 6 other girls, chopping down trees during the day and then just hanging out by a campfire like it was my dream life. And I was sober at first. I'm going all around. I was sober at first. I signed a contract that said if I drank, I would get fired. I thought that would be really good for me. I didn't think I was an alcoholic at the time, but I thought those boundaries would be good for me. But I'm an alcoholic, so the boundaries don't work. And I started drinking again because I had shown myself I could not drink for a month. And it snowballed into me giving alcohol to my subordinate, who I was in charge of. She was 19. And then, we almost did things. We'll just leave it at that. So, that's not a great look, right? That doesn't look good to give alcohol to somebody you're in charge of on a job you promised not to drink on, and then try to do certain things that you're not supposed to do with your employees. Rough moment. And the next, it was just a weird day. It's totally fine. I'm a normal drinker. At the time, I didn't think that was objectionable. I didn't. And it wasn't but that was around near the end of my drinking. And I got injured on the job. I had to go home, and I was sleeping on my camping mat on my dad's living room floor because he didn't even have a room for me. And I walked into an AA meeting with my uncle, and I was like, I'm not really an alcoholic because I've never lost my wife before. I was sleeping on the floor. And I can tell you now, I didn't know at the time, but I'd be sleeping on that floor for 2 years into sobriety. I do have a bed today, guys. Gifts of sobriety. Hey, I think that deserves a clap. There's a mattress, there's a box spring. No. Thank you. I have a mattress today. And I didn't think there was much wrong. So anyways, I'm spending a lot of time on this first part because this is what got me going on the steps. For a long time, I stalled in AA because I wasn't sure if I was an alcoholic. I wasn't even sure what to do. People just, I'd come to the meeting, I'd be like, I stole money from work today, and they're like, but you didn't drink. And I'm like, yes, I didn't drink today, but something doesn't feel right. Or I'd be talking to my sponsor, and I'm like, I've got 4 special friends right now. Again, there's children in the audience. Please pick up what I'm putting down, guys. I had 4 special friends at the same time, and she's like, but you didn't drink. And sober life was becoming unbearable. Way worse than my drinking. Again, in AA, my inability to comfortably stay sober is what informed me that I was an alcoholic. It wasn't my consequences. I had not been arrested. I did things that should have gotten me arrested, but I was not arrested. But I couldn't stay comfortably sober. And when I started drinking, I didn't know what was going to happen. Those 2 things are my form of the phenomenon of craving in my body. I don't know what's going to happen. And the mental obsession, the insanity, is like a normal person could just stop drinking and they're like, wow, life has gotten better. And I'm like, I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be sober. It's day, 60? Yeah, I'm so happy. And a lot of people told me, just sit down, just keep coming, it gets better, and I was picking up those chips, guys. I was picking up the chips, the time was stacking, and I was getting worse. And around my year mark, I wanted to jump off a building. And everybody's like, how'd you do it? One day at a time. And I'm like, they don't know that I'm empty inside. And everyone's like, it's so great that you got young sober. And I'm like, the thought of doing this last year over again for the next 50 years, I think I'm just going to take myself out. The alcohol doesn't even have to. Sorry, one more thing for the phenomenon of craving. It shows up different in all of us. It looks different. It sounds different. But my sponsor put it beautifully once. It's like, imagine you go to a dealership and your dream car is there. And they say, everything works great on this car, except at certain times, the brakes don't work. Would you buy that car? No, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a teacher. I'm looking for a response, guys. You wouldn't buy that car. The thing is, for each of us, it's like maybe, for me, maybe the brakes didn't work 40% of the time. Maybe a guy who's stumbling in here at age 55, maybe the brakes don't work 90% of the time. But what I know is the breaks are going to keep getting worse. The longer I drink, the breaks are going to keep getting worse. And by the grace of my higher power, that sunk in a little bit after my year mark. Because I celebrated my sobriety as my own success for my first year. I loved it when you clapped for me. That's right, I did it. I got my 6 months. I did it. I showed up to the meeting after stealing money from my job and dating people who were already dating people. But I didn't drink today. I didn't drink. I'm a scumbag, but I didn't drink today. Because this program isn't just about not drinking. It's about so much more than drinking. I get so much more from this program than just physical sobriety. And I'm grateful that I got to have that. My first year was rough. As my friend said, we lost a dear friend, Eric, in our first year. He was sober when he died, I think. Sober-ish. You know. But he took his life because he couldn't comfortably be sober. And he wasn't doing the steps. He was my first AA boyfriend. He gave me my 30-day chip. It was very romantic. I got a little annoyed at him 3 months into our relationship when he decided to bring another woman into it. I was not into that. And I think the last words I ever said to him were hateful, spiteful, cruel. And he's gone. So, I hadn't done my steps. I didn't do the work to look at myself. And I caused undue suffering onto somebody who was already suffering. If I had stepped out of myself for 1 minute, if I had stepped back and looked at this person as a sick and suffering individual, how can I help them? Maybe I would have a different story to tell for my last with that person. But, that is what it is. It's been a really helpful story to share, especially with women in the program, because, relationships are wild. They can't get me to drink, but they're wild. The men too. Relationships are wild. It's wild out here. So that was year one. A caveat to get us into year two. I'm going to go quicker, but again, for the newcomers, explaining those two things. Those are my problems. I don't have a thinking problem. I have an insanity problem, but not all of my thinking is backwards. And the book does say I can think. It says I can think so many different times. It says for me to rationalize. On awakening, we consider our days. We're thinking. I used my brain today because it's cleared up in there. It's cleared of wrong motives. Or if it's not cleared of wrong motives, I know what to do to clear the wrong motives. But I was feeling empty. I was resentful at my local fellowship. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I started listening to podcasts of people who were reading the book and explaining it, because let me tell you something. When you're the young woman in the room, after the meeting, everybody wants to come up and tell you how to live your life, what to do, what you're doing wrong, what you should be doing right. Giving you prayer cards, trying to date you, everything. Trying to save you, everything. Everyone had an opinion on how I was to live my life, what I was doing wrong, and it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good. So maybe don't do that if you do that to people. Look at me, I just told you not to do stuff to other people. That's it. Started listening to podcasts. This woman in Australia was reading the book and explaining it, reading the big book and explaining it and explaining the clear-cut directions. And she started by explaining the problem, and I was like, that's my problem? I really am an alcoholic. And that was so exciting because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the right place. I'm supposed to be here. And then about 30 seconds later, I was like, oh my God, I'm in the right place. If I don't change something about myself, I am going to drink again. And if I drink, I'm going to lose more of that brake control on my car. And I don't know when I'm going to come back to the rooms. And I got so scared. And that whole, you're going to drink, you're going to die, that sunk in for me. And it just did when it did. Nobody could convince me of that. Nobody could make me get to that point. I just got to that point. I listened to her podcasts all the time in my ear while I was stealing money from my job, dating all those people. And finally, I had the courage to email her, and sorry, I had to burp. I reached out to her, and we started meeting on Zoom, and she became my sponsor. And everybody in my local group, I'm from St. Pete. I was born and raised there. I had my physical fellowship in the area, and they were like, "You can't have a sponsor on Zoom." And I was like, "But I do." And they're like, "Well, it's not going to count. It's not going to work." And it's like, where's the spirit in that, right? There's form, and then there's substance with the steps. I can do the form of this. I can say the third prayer, but if there's no substance behind it, it's just words. And I was ready at that point to do the steps. I understood I was hopeless. I understood I was powerless. And I knew that I didn't have a plan to solve that problem. Anything I was going to try was going to fail, so I was ready for anything. She took me through the steps in 2.5 months. I did them pretty quickly. People disapproved of that too. They said I needed to go longer. I'm not saying that going longer is wrong. My one way of doing this program is not the way. The steps are the steps, but I'm not going to stand here and say anybody else is wrong. I just didn't appreciate it that people told me I was wrong because it felt good in my heart. I did my 5th step on Zoom with her. She was helping her cat give birth to kittens. So I'd be with my spiral notebook, really in my stuff. I'm like, "And my mother never loved me." And she's like, "Hold on, she's having another one, wait." It wasn't about me. I've heard these beautiful stories of 5th steps. Yeah, we went by this river, and it was 4 hours long, and we stared at each other. And that was not my experience, but it was enough. It got me there. Some stuff got cleared up, and I saw myself. I had a change of perspective, which I'd never had. I was not a victim of my life anymore. Other people weren't the problem in my life anymore. I was the problem. And I found my behavior objectionable. And that's the craziest part. That was my first spiritual experience, was all those things I was doing that I tell you about now, I actually thought they were not okay to do. I know it's funny, yeah, right? Because it's obviously those aren't okay, but some part of me thought they were okay enough to keep doing. And then they weren't. And we kept going through the steps, and I made my amends. And that's just incredible. There's certain people who don't want to ever talk to me, who I've tried to reach out to, but there was nobody who I said I will never make amends to. I made my attempt. I made my demonstration. It's water over the dam. And the rest is up to my higher power. I didn't write scripts for my amends. That felt like I was trying to control it and plan it. I tried to speak from the heart. I made mistakes. I still showed up with selfish motives at times, and I learned real quick, what does it feel like to give a truly honest amends to somebody? An amend is a repair. Am I actually repairing their life? Am I adding to their life? Am I making it better? Or is this for them to forgive me so I can feel good about myself? And I'm that's the work for the rest of my life. Because of this program, I have the privilege of getting to make amends for the rest of my life, because I find selfishness all the time in my behaviors. And I have this system I can take it through now. And that's cool. Started doing 10, started doing 11. I got the 10-step promises. That desire, that obsession to drink that I was fighting every day was lifted. I didn't get stronger against that fight. It was just gone. And that's the only way I can stay comfortably sober, is I'm not fighting anything today. When things are good, when things are bad, my thought is not to drink. That's crazy for me. Because that's how I lived. I thought that was the way to live life. And I got to 11. And then I got some amazing news that I got this very prestigious award from the government to go teach English in Mongolia. Where's Mongolia? Anybody know? It's not China, but it's above it, yeah. It's between Russia and China. It's got the coldest capital city in the world. It was negative 40 degrees for about 9 weeks. And I'm from here, guys. I'm like a Florida girl. And I had wanted to do that for years, and I couldn't, in active drinking, of course. And at the same time, before I found out I got that scholarship, I signed up for EMT school because I was finally able to pass the drug test. Because, I had wanted to be an EMT for years, and I couldn't because, couldn't pass that drug test. And life got full, and life got busy, and life was about me again. And that always seems to be a solution for me. I'm like, I'm feeling empty. Like, what do I need to add to my life? What do I need for me? In that third step prayer, it says, release me from the bondage of self. And my friend has a great analogy for that. It's not called the jacuzzi of self. Being obsessed with self is really uncomfortable. It's unbearable, right? The purpose of the steps is not to get me to stop drinking. The purpose of the steps is to get me to a higher power. The way I get to a higher power is by getting rid of selfishness. And the steps are just a tool of getting rid of self. And that's like the very simplest way I can put it. It is a system. It's an algorithm. It's a math equation. It's a recipe. If I make this recipe for a cake, I'm going to get a cake. If I go too hard on a certain ingredient, right, it's like it asks for 1 cup of sugar, and I pour in 5 cups of sugar because that makes the cake like stronger. That's too much. I'm giving an example of some 5th steps I've heard where people go in their second column and they write like a paragraph, and you're like, whoa. Let's take a look at that page. You see those bullet points on column 2? You see those? That's what 1 cup of sugar, guys. 1 cup of sugar. Because that's just an obsession of self too, right? That second column on the resentments list. And it's miserable to stay in column 2, from my own experience. Anyways, back to 11. I was busy. Life was busy. And my sponsor was like, you need to go help women. This is not a self-help program. You need to go help other people. That is what we're doing this for. I took you through these steps so you can go help other people who want these steps. And I'm like, but I'm 23. Like, nobody's going to listen to me. Or was I 24? I don't know. But I was like, I'm a young woman in AA. Who's going to want me as a sponsor? And thank you. I do sponsor. I'm looking for sponsees always. But at the time, I was like, I can't help anyone. So I better focus in on my career. And then when I get more sober time and I'm older, then people, or I was really ashamed of my story because I didn't have a DUI. I was like, how am I going to connect with people? Those were my thoughts. I was jealous of my friends. I'm like, they have way better stories than I do to connect with people. And, of course, I realize that's not the truth today. I'm here to connect with whoever I'm meant to connect with. I'm here to share for whoever's meant to hear. And I'm not supposed to sponsor everybody in AA, and that's okay. But I am supposed to show up for the people I am supposed to, right? It's not my power or my responsibility to get anybody sober, but it is in my power and it is my responsibility to give anybody the opportunity to get sober, to show up. That is my job always. That is my number 1 job if I take step 3 honestly. It's that is my primary purpose now, is to give anybody the opportunity to get sober if they want it. But I didn't do that for 7 months after completing step 11, and I moved to Mongolia. And it says if we rest on our laurels, things will start to get bad again. And they got bad again. And that's why I can confidently say today I am a recovered alcoholic, because I've been in that recovered state, and then I've fallen back out of it into the obsession to drink, and that's an interesting feeling. And I'm back out of it again, because I do understand what I need to do today to stay in this recovery state. But it is a state, right? If I don't do certain things, I fall out of it. If I don't eat a sandwich every day, or, if I eat a sandwich yesterday, and I'm here and today, and I'm like, I don't need another sandwich. I ate one yesterday. That's not how hunger works. I need it every day. This is food for my soul, and I need it every day. And like, I need to brush my teeth every day, right? I need to shower every day. Imagine if I don't know if you guys shower every day. Or even brush your teeth. I'm not here to judge. It's not my business. But just that idea that there are things I do every day that are good for me. And this is one of them. And it doesn't have to be this, I gotta do this stuff every day. Oh my gosh. I don't feel that way. I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be sharing this time with you guys. So yeah, the insanity came back. I was alone in Mongolia. I couldn't find AA Mongolia. I tried to. There was an address, but I walked, so the buses didn't really work in the city. I was in a post-Soviet era country with like dirt roads. There were horses. I was in a city, but like there were horses on the road. And I had to walk 2 hours to this building that I thought was the AA headquarters, and it wasn't anymore. And all of a sudden I was out in the middle of nowhere at this abandoned building I was probably one of 5 blonde women in this country, y'all. The average height of a man was 5'5", so I'm like Big Bird. I'm like Big Bird walking through this place, poking around this abandoned building, trying to find a door with a triangle and a circle on it. I'm like, is anybody home? So I couldn't find Mongolian AA. And I wasn't reaching out to people to help them, right? It's not just about keeping up with my fellowship or going to a meeting or calling alcoholics, because like, if I go to a meeting and talk about myself, if I call 3 alcoholics and talk about myself, I'm not getting out of the bondage of self, right? I need to go help people. And I told myself, I put up all these barriers around myself. I'm like, I can't sponsor because I'm too young. I can't sponsor because I'm a woman. I can't sponsor because I don't have these experiences with my drinking. I can't sponsor because I live in Mongolia. Like, I put all these barriers between me and what my higher power wanted for me, and it almost killed me. Vodka is like $2 over there. I went to the doctor for like a cough, and he prescribed me vodka. I'm not joking, guys. Alcoholism is a huge problem in Mongolia. There are pools of vomit on every street corner. I've been chased by drunk men over there several times. Because again, Big Bird, like I'm easy to chase, follow. There is tons of alcohol. So much alcohol around me. And I would call my sponsor in Australia, and I'd be like, I broke up with my boyfriend and everything's bad. And she's like, you need to help people. And I'm like, it's not that simple. And she's like, it's that simple. You're drenched in self. Go help someone. And she hung up the phone. It was a 5-minute conversation, and I'm like, she's so mean. She doesn't care about me. She saved my life. She got out of the way so that I could connect with my higher power. She didn't tell me what to do. It was me and God. At that point, it was like, nobody can tell me what's right or wrong in this. I either have this in me or I don't. So I started going to Zoom meetings. I started raising my hand to sponsor. I started telling people, hey, I'm looking for sponsees. And like, I wasn't getting any numbers or anything. I'm like, this is pointless. But I kept showing up, and I pray every day, right? And doing my 10th step, doing my 11th. God help me find someone. And on an international big book group, Black Rhinos International Big Book Meeting, 7:30 p.m. on Wednesdays, y'all. People from all over the world come together and we read the big book. It's amazing. That was my home group that year. This guy from the Philippines was like, I've got a girl for you. So my first sponsee was a woman I met over the phone from the Philippines. And I was praying to God all the time, because I'm like, just speak through me. Help me carry the message to this person, because this person doesn't need advice from me on their life like me, Charlotte. I'm 24, I'm a mess, I can't keep a relationship, I don't know how to budget. I was still sleeping on the floor. I got a bed in Mongolia, but like I had a floor to return to. So like I wasn't gonna be a good life coach. I was just like, God, speak through me, help me carry this message to the next person. And I still have that sponsee today. I'm so grateful. She's amazing. She's taught me so much. And like, as soon as I stopped putting up all the barriers, life just came flooding in. And all of a sudden I had 8 sponsees, and like I was going to these Zoom meetings and I'm like, anything is possible with God, and then anything was possible with God. And after about a month of that, the obsession to drink was lifted. I had been making that recipe for the cake. I put it in the oven, but I didn't turn the oven on. That's step 12, The oven turned on, and then I had a cake. And then I was like, this is the spiritual awakening as a result of all these steps. This is what I was like, hanging out at step 3. I'm like, I don't feel God's presence. A spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. I was like at step 4, at step 5, I'm like, I'm not feeling it, man. Even step 10, I was like, sometimes I still want to drink. And then there it was. So cool. I couldn't have made that up. I couldn't have created this program of recovery for myself. My best efforts and ideas before AA could keep me sober the longest for like a month. And it's amazing. And after about another month and a half, I went on another 2-hour walk to the other side of the town. And I finally found the AA headquarters. And I walked into the building and I came up to the door and I knocked on the door, and it was the middle of the day and the door was locked. AA General Services was locked, and I was like, oh no. There was a phone number on the door. I called the phone number. This man started speaking in Mongolian. Duh. And I was like, no, I can't speak Mongolian. I don't speak Mongolian, guys, to this day. I can speak a few words, but that is a hard language to jump to. That's the other side of the world. No. He called me. I was like, I don't speak Mongolian. He hung up. I was like, okay, no AA Mongolia. I got a phone call back about a minute later from this woman who spoke broken English. And long story short, I found the one and only English-speaking Mongolian meeting in the country. And what I had to do is on Monday mornings, I had to wake up at 5 a.m., get to the bus stop at 5:30, take the bus an hour to the west side of the village, not the village, the city, walk up this flight of stairs, and then there I was with these 2 women speaking English and reading the daily reflection. And I was like, do either of you need a sponsor? They're older than me, and I'm in Asia, and here I am, this little kid, can I help you? Can I be of service today? And they're like, no, not you, but you can keep coming over, sweetie. And that was it. I finally stopped going to that meeting after about 3 months because it got so cold that the buses started to explode. The engines got so cold they would explode. They weren't designed for weather that severe. So I was like, I'll just do my Zoom meetings for now. And they kept inviting me to these events, it's AA in Mongolia. It's 25 years old this year. I'm like, oh, I'm 25. Mongolian AA is very young. Under the USSR, they weren't allowed to bring anything in with God. So AA was a no-go. Mongolia became a democracy in 1990. It's a very young country. And then AA got introduced in 1998. So they were having all these celebrations, and I remember I went to one, and I walked in, and I'm sure some of y'all out here have social anxiety, and I just want to throw it out there. Imagine, if you will, being Big Bird, and walking into a Mongolian convention of AA where everybody looks the same. They do. I'm not being, it's a homogenous country. They look the same, guys. And I walk in, and people started taking pictures of me. And I got off the elevator. I think I got a cup of coffee. All these men started trying to grab my elbows, and I just backed into the elevator, and I left. I think I lasted 5 minutes at that thing. I was like, okay, I'm not ever going to one of these big events again. I work for the U.S. government. They're taking my picture. They're putting it on Facebook. They have no concept of the 12 traditions. They don't. They're young AA. Imagine our AA back in the 40s. They were putting their faces up in the newspapers. This is a young fellowship. And I didn't interact with Mongolian AA for 6 more months after that. And it was about time for me to move back to the United States. I had like 2 weeks left in Mongolia, 2 or 3. And it was springtime and it was warm enough again and the buses weren't exploding. So I went back to that meeting with the 2 women and they were like, come to this event. And I was like, no. And that Saturday morning, I was like in my bed. I'm like, I don't want to go. And I got that voice, that God consciousness. If you feel it, you know it. If you haven't felt it yet, there's this recipe for how to get to it. And it's simple and it's available to anybody who wants it. And it said, go. Don't make this difficult. It's easy. It's simple. You get on the bus. You ride that bus for an hour and a half to the west side of the city to get to this convention, and you just go. And I was terrified, and I went. And this time, I met a 3rd woman who spoke English, and it was incredible. And we exchanged numbers, and I was like, do you want to hang out? And she's like, I'm going to the desert for 3 weeks. And I was like, okay, so that's a no. And I was like, and we're done with Mongolian AA. But I was like, do you know anybody else who speaks English? And she's like, yeah, there is. How much time do I have?
4 minutes.
Okay, solid. Here we go. She gave me the number of a guy, Batr, who his name means hero. And we connected. And I'm like, hey, my name is Charlotte. Nice to meet you. And he's like, hey, do you know how to do a 4-step? And I'm like, yes, I do know how to do a 4-step. He didn't ask me, like, what are your drinking stories? Like, he's like, do you know how to do a 4-step? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I've done that. Not well, but I did it from my heart. It gets better with time. My 4th steps get better, or my inventory gets better with time. But he's like, will you come speak at my home group? I'm like, of course. And they're like, our translation of the Big Book is really muddled. They have had the Big Book in Mongolia since 2011. So before that, they didn't have steps, really. They didn't there was no sponsorship. People were just shooting from the hip on how to stay sober, like doing the meetings. Like they were copying us. They were looking up, how do you get sober in AA? You go to the meetings, you smoke cigarettes. So he brought me to this apartment complex, and we crawled into a bunker space. Like the door was like this big. I had to get into it like this. And then all of a sudden I realized I was alone in a room with 20 men who I didn't know in a part of the city. Nobody knew where I was because it's Alcoholics Anonymous. And I was like, maybe this wasn't a good idea. But God was with me, so I wasn't afraid. And yeah, I had no need to be afraid. When I tell these stories, they sound terrifying, but God was only time in my life I've ever felt completely unafraid were those last 2 weeks when I was in Mongolia, because I was completely thinking about other people. Me and Batr started becoming a bit of an attraction in Mongolia, where we would go to these meetings for 2 hours. I would explain how to do all of the directions of the 12 steps, and he would be translating. I'm so grateful you're here, by the way. Thank you so much. This is incredible. This belongs to everybody. Recovery belongs to everybody. Everyone deserves to recover, regardless of how they get that communication. So he and I started traveling around the whole country doing these big book workshops. Thank you so much. And I started getting this posse of sponsees who were just men. Me and these 5 Mongolian men who were 10 years older than me. I'm like, yep, these are my boys. And I listened to my first 5th step by a man, and oh my goodness, y'all do some stuff. But in all seriousness, with my friend Batr, I had the privilege of being unblocked by God so that we could have a very hard conversation where I defined what the word grape means to him. Grape, minus the G. I said, Batr, what you did was grape. And he said, no, it wasn't. And we were in that 5th step, and I could have lost my bananas. I could have lost my marbles, right? And made it about me, and made it, I need this person to realize this. And God said, keep your mouth shut. And he got there on his own, right? A minute later, he's like, I think my ego's trying to protect me. I think it is too, and I love you, and it's okay. And we just kept doing that. and it was amazing. And fast forward a little bit more, I had to go home. I have a Mongolian Big Book workshop that meets every Thursday at 6 a.m. I wake up at 5. There's like 26 people on it now, and it's so incredible. I've worked on this document for the past year, breaking down the Big Book into like easier English language, and then my friend Niyama translates it, and we've been sharing it with all these people. I've been doing that for the past 11 months, living here again. I'm so grateful to be back. I hope something I said tonight helped somebody. This program is available to anybody, anywhere. I can recover. I'm not special. This program is amazing. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you.